Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. If you're listening to this podcast on a regular basis, there's a decent chance that you're someone who gets it. You're a woman physician who listens along and nods and says, yep, that's it. That's exactly what I've been thinking and struggling with. And yeah, that's me. Many of us have tried to apply things we've learned in podcasts. We've reflected, and I bet you've done that too. You've made small shifts, and yet something still isn't quite moving the way that you want it to. I want to stop right here, and I want to tell you that you aren't doing anything wrong. Hear me when I say this. You are not doing anything wrong. What's going on here most of the time is that we are trying to do work that is not meant to be done in isolation. We are not meant to carry these things on our own. Nothing has gone wrong. When we are trying to build better lives, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's getting out of burnout, whether it's trying to build healthy habits, we aren't meant to do that alone, snuck in between patient visits and portal messages, and, waiting for the kids to go to bed. Today, I want to talk about what actually happens when women physicians come together in community and stop trying to do all this work on their own. We can't grow nearly as well as we want to in private. We just can't. But if we come together and instead allow ourselves to be supported inside a community that's designed for us, we actually get to do the work that we want to do and build the better lives that we want. Now, you may know this already, but I'm a practicing physician, and I work with women physicians who are thoughtful, insightful, and they are deeply committed to their work. People want to be practicing medicine, and yet they feel like they're drowning in it. But they show up, they are working on it, they read, they listen, they reflect, right? They're trying to do all the right things to make their own lives better as they're holding the weight of the world and their families and their patients. Most of them show up to coaching and say some version of, yeah, I understand this intellectually, like I get it in my head, but I can't actually seem to sustain the change. Again, nothing has gone wrong here. This is not a motivation problem. It's not an understanding problem. It's, quite frankly, not a discipline problem like everybody thinks it is. It is a context problem. And we really have to get clear on that in order to make progress. Again, nothing has gone wrong. Medicine trains us to be self-contained and self-directed. Right? We are meant to know what to do, how to do it on our own. We are meant to handle things quietly, to assume that if something isn't changing, if something isn't improving, the answer is usually to push harder or to be more disciplined. I mean, think back to your medical training and tell me that that doesn't feel true. We were meant to think that if something's going wrong, it's us. We don't have the knowledge, we don't have the skills, we're just not working hard enough. But the things that we're actually talking about here on this podcast, things like boundaries and presence and self-kindness and effectiveness, those don't actually grow all that well in isolation, right? We need to do this work together. So I'm going to share 3 things with you that I found to be really important. And point number 1 is that community changes what feels possible for you in your life. When you see yourself reflected, it loosens up shame and rigidity that we are often getting stuck in. That sense of, I should know how to do this by now. Why can't I do this right? I have to do it just right this way. When you hear someone else name your thought out loud, when you realize that your struggle is patterned and not personal, right? These things matter because you no longer feel like you're a quiet, miserable failure on your own. You stop wasting energy on self-judgment and instead try and help figure out what is getting in my way and how can I approach things differently? How can I take the small steps that I need to and have the support alongside? There is something that is profoundly regulating about being in a room, whether that's virtual or in person, where you don't have to explain why what you're working on is hard. People understand, right? Imagine people knowing how hard it is to write 20, 30 notes a day, right? It matters. Community doesn't fix us. It normalizes us. And when we can be in that place where we understand that we are not broken, we are not dumb, we are not ineffectual, change becomes less about effort and it just becomes more clear and more honest. It really matters. When you're not busy defending yourself internally, we get to be more creative about how do we solve this problem. When I'm working with someone, it's so crazy when she's describing what she's feeling. She's describing how her day goes. And I get to hear it and think about, what is she not able to see? And reflect back to her. And then we find a solution. It's amazing how well that can flow. And yet we get so stuck in thinking, I have to do this on my own. We can see options that we literally couldn't see before because we are just so stuck in our experience. That's normal. And yet, again, we have this context of feeling like, no, it's a me problem. Point number 2 is that external accountability is not about pressure. It's about support. People often struggle with holding themselves accountable because we come from this place of feeling like accountability is, all about hustle. It's all about working ourselves harder. And we have had a lot of that in our lives, right? We've been driven by other people, and then we learned how to drive ourselves like a taskmaster. Accountability is not about someone checking up on you. It's about being witnessed. It interrupts that pattern that we get into where it's like, oh, I'll get to this eventually, right? We want to interrupt that loop. We want to realize, no, we're in it right now. This is the chance to practice. This is the chance to actually practice the thing that I'm working on. I'm going to practice the discomfort of actually leaving somebody waiting while I spend 2 minutes closing the note. Most of the women that I work with, they don't need more pressure in their lives. They have plenty of pressure in their lives, right? But what they need is some external structure that holds their intentions with them, right? When their energy is drained, they know that the group and the structure is helping to support them, even when their energy just feels like it's in the toilet. When you say out loud, this is what I'm working on, and someone else can hold that with you and remembers it with you, it makes such a difference, right? It changes things. When we can celebrate together that you closed your notes or, you went on a walk at lunch, right? Or you drank water and then you didn't have a headache in the afternoon, that makes a huge difference, right? This is why people make changes like adjusting their FTE or closing their notes more consistently, or finally protecting their time for their bodies, right? For families, right? Choosing to do what they do in their time because they're no longer drowning. Not because someone told them to, but because the space supported it help them to see how important and meaningful it was to them in their own lives, and help to create this structure that helps them to get what they want. All right, let's come to point number 3. Self-kindness grows faster in relationship. This really matters, and it's hard to actually put language around it and really understand what this means because we are so used to a lack of self-kindness and self-compassion. Self-compassion is hard to generate on your own. We borrow it from others at first, right? We recognize how amazing the other people are in the group and how we can't believe the language that they use in their own head, while completely forgetting that we use that language in our own heads too, right? They're looking at us and seeing the amazing things in us, and we are looking at them and seeing the amazing things in them. And from that place, we start to see how we've been ignoring our own magic, right? Groups teach us how to treat ourselves by watching how others are treated, right? We don't let friends use horrible language against themselves, continue to beat themselves up, right? We don't let friends do that. We don't let our partners, our kids, our spouses, our patients, right? We don't let them do that. But most of us didn't learn self-kindness by ourselves. We learn it by being treated kindly, right? And that means inside as well as outside. In a supportive group, you start to internalize a different voice, right? The voice that no longer says you're not good enough, you should have this by now, but the one that says, yeah, of course this is hard. That voice no longer will beat you over the head with the, why can't I get my act together, right? Instead it says, yeah, this is hard. This was a hard day. Sometimes we knew a hard day was coming, sometimes we didn't. But if we can step back and say, yeah, that was hard. It makes sense that you feel this way, right? That voice, that new voice that speaks to us kindly, like that's the one that actually helps us to create and sustain change. And we've been missing that. Imagine if you didn't have to do your growth in secret, right? You didn't have to do this on your own. You didn't have to decide, what am I going to work on? And keep it to yourself because you don't want to say anything in case you botch it up, right? Imagine if the part of you that is so tired didn't have to argue with the part of you that knows better because you weren't carrying it alone, right? You want to close your charts. You try and work on it. Some things help, some things don't. You don't nail it right away. You still made progress, but you can't see that and you can't celebrate that because you don't have that self-kindness language yet. But imagine having a place where your intelligence is assumed. We know how smart and brilliant you are. We just know. A place where your exhaustion makes perfect sense to us. We don't question why you haven't done things yet. We understand. And a place where your humanity is not treated as a problem to solve. Imagine being in a container where you are surrounded by other brilliant women physicians who are also struggling but trying to put the pieces together. And, it becomes this environment where everybody gets to share ideas, everybody gets to say out loud and be witnessed and witness the other humans who are trying to work on improving their lives, right? What is that like to be in that kind of a group? I'm going to tell you, it's magic. I have been in these groups as a participant. I have led these groups as a leader. I can't tell you all of the benefits. It's funny, my business coaching group, we talk a lot about marketing. And I continue to feel that marketing is not my strong suit. I don't know if that's ever going to change, and that's not really the point. It is hard for me to put into words the difference it makes in someone's lives when they are feeling, I'm just going to say self-efficacious and self-kindness, right? When you know that you have made your day better because you no longer have 20 charts open at the end of the day and you're no longer drowning in this inbox that feels impossible and trying to do everything for everyone and not knowing how to set boundaries and trying to exercise or spend more time with your kids, and you feel like you just can't make any progress. When you come into a container like this, when you come into a group space where people are very aware of the very real challenges that you face, because they're having them too. They may not have your exact challenges, but they know what you're talking about because they are struggling with their own things that have a similar flavor. We are all working in this broken healthcare system, and we may see different parts of it. Some of us work in big systems. Some of us work in small clinics. Some of us work only in the hospital. Some of us take insurance, some of us don't, right? We are all dealing with different structures, and yet the themes and flavors of the challenges that we present are all so similar. We have learned to work without boundaries. We have learned to put everyone else before ourselves. We have learned to ignore our bladders, our need for sleep and healthy food and movement in order to do the work that we've done. We cannot sustain the life where there is no space for us. And the answer is a little bit different of where do we start for each human. But when we have a safe container to work in, where we have a space where other brilliant women physicians who are struggling with the same things can show up, can share what they're working on, can share the thoughts that get in the way or the other, external obstacles that are keeping them stuck, we get to problem solve together. We get to train that voice of self-kindness to come in a different way so that it can help to promote the changes that we're seeking in our lives. This is the magic that I'm talking about. And my friends, I want to open this invitation. If you've been listening for a while, you've known that we've had groups before. The last group was in 2025. It was called Unbound. In 2026, we are opening the practice. The practice is a space for women physicians to come in. We do the work in 3-month segments. That's intentional. It's designed for people to come in and work for the period of time that they want, but to have ability to come in and to go in a way that connects with real life, because life moves in seasons. Inside the practice, here's what you're going to find. Every month, we're going to come together twice a month to have some kind of a themed session where we really focus and tackle something that we're struggling with. That might be work around charting our inbox. It might be work on setting boundaries. It might be creating space for ourselves in, our life outside of medicine. We're going to do that twice a month. We're also going to have some free sessions called office hours where we can show up. There's no fixed agenda, but that space is just for us to problem solve together. We're going to reflect on the progress we've made. We're going to overcome obstacles. We are going to figure out what do we need in this moment. And I can tell you from, the time, this week that we're in early February 2026, we've had so many hard things coming through in the news. We've got, things that affect us directly in medicine, like changes to vaccine policy. We've got things that are external to medicine, although, it all still impacts us because, quite frankly, the stress that people are carrying shows up in our bodies, right? So we are treating people's stress all day long. But when we have spaces to come together and just share and talk and think and process emotions, right? It makes such a difference. That's what I've been working on this week, as just some really incredibly hard things have been coming out in the news. That's the work that I do as coach. It's work that makes a difference in my life. It's the coaching that I receive. It's the coaching that I give. So there's space for that. So themed sessions, right, where we're going to tackle something that's important to the group. Some of these more free-flowing office hour sessions. And once a month, you and I will meet one-on-one. We will meet one-on-one for some direct coaching. Now, some months you might choose to process difficult emotions with me. Some months you might say, yeah, I'm working and, we had this session that we were talking about charting and like, here's where I'm at. And I need some more help in figuring out these obstacles, right? Then we're going to coach on that. That space is just for you. It is a space for you to show up with me once a month. And we have the time and the space to work on what is important to you. I'm really excited about this program. So again, this is called The Practice, and we are enrolling now. So it is February 2026. Our first session is going to be February 16th, which is Sunday, 4 to 5:30 Pacific time. It's going to be 7 to 8:30 if you're on the East Coast, right? You figure it out if you're somewhere in the middle. February sessions are bonus sessions because there's a lot of things going on. I was going to start on February 8th, but it is Super Bowl Sunday, and I have to pretend like I don't have to pretend I care about it. I am going to go to a party, like many of you, on Super Bowl Sunday, and I don't know, I guess watch the Super Bowl. I should care about this, sort of, because the Seahawks are playing, and I'm a lifelong Seattleite. I don't really care. By the time you hear this, we'll know whether we won or lost, and I don't really care. But anyway, I didn't want to start on Super Bowl Sunday because that might matter to some people, and it might get in the way of you being able to show up and spend time with me. So, long story short, our actual months are March, April, May, but we are starting early in February so that we can, come into the container, come into the group, start to get to know each other, start to identify what themes are important to us. So we start doing the work, and we're ready to go. So if that sounds appealing, if you're like, yes, I've been waiting for a space like this, and you're a woman physician, you're going to find the link in the show notes. If you're already on my email list, you will have also gotten emails about this. If you are a woman physician who is not on my email list, you definitely want to get on there. That's where you learn about these opportunities. That's where you get a weekly email from me where we kind of connect the dots with everything else that's going on in the podcast, right? So adult learners, we like to learn in multiple ways, and we like to see things more than once in order to really let it settle into our bodies, right? We get more of that when we engage in something like the practice. But if you just want to start with the email list, you just head over to my website, which is www.healthierforgood.com. My friends, I'm so excited to bring this work to you. I can't wait for you to sign up. I can't wait to begin doing this work together. As you can tell, this is something that I am incredibly passionate about. It's been something I've been really preparing my whole life for in order to be able to do this work with people. And it's so meaningful when we get to meet and spend this time together, helping to make our lives better. You do this every single day with the patients that you care for and the people that you take care of in your own life. Now is the time where the space is yours. It's yours. I hope you'll join me. My friends, that is what I have for you today. Until next week, take care. Please reach out to me if you have questions about the practice. Again, you'll find the link in the show notes. Until next week.
Well, that's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.